Hi everyone, let me welcome you during our second webinar of Lighttoys Academy Live. My name is Marek. For those who don't know me, I am a creative director of Pyrotera shows, and today I'm so excited to welcome you for another exciting another exciting workshop or webinar, if you can say. Today we are going to be focused on work and programming sequencing in Lighttoys Composer 3.3 for Visual Poi. For those who missed last tutorial, I would like to say that you can see the tutorial, you can see the webinar online on Facebook, on YouTube and on Instagram. Just go to IGTV or go to our profile, Pyrotera Lighttoys, and you can find it there. It is saved. It's the whole webinar. We just cut off the beginning, which was like countdown and some not important stuff. And yes, last time we've been focusing on work with color blocks. So we are not going to repeat that again. However, we are going to work with color blocks as well for Visual Poi today. It will be good to mention that I prepared a project for Visual Poi, which you can download, as well as the resources like music, installation folder with LT Composer for Mac or Windows. And all these things you can download right now if you didn't do it yet. And you can download it on this link here. So just type this to your browser, it will directly download to your computer. And I'm going to work with the same folder actually. So you will be on the same page like I am. Today we are going to work with Visual Poi. Visual Poi is our product LED prop, which is different from our regular FT range. Visual Poi can display any images, so when you are spinning with them, you can see graphics, patterns, photos, texts, anything which you uploaded before during USB port. And today we are going to focus exactly on that, on creating sequence for our Visual Poi. And it's I think important to mention that LT Composer is supporting various types of products. So actually I'm going to show you that today you can work with Visual Poi. So if you own Visual Poi Minis or Classic or Maxi or Visual Vant, like Levi Vant with visual stuff, or you are owning like visual staffs, it's actually not important if it's V3, which is the older generation, or if it's the V4, which is the most current generation of Visual Poi. All those products are basically the same in the matter of programming sequencing. So today's project you can upload into your Visual Poi, Visual Vant, V3, V4. It's actually not very important. So let's jump to my screen here. At the beginning, I would like to explain the principle of this technology. So here you can see I prepared a little image. This is photo of our three performers, Belinda, Zdeněk and Adriana. And of course we did this in Photoshop. So you can see what is the Visual Poi actually how Visual Poi works. By spinning the Visual Poi in the direction clockwise or counterclockwise, you are creating these images which we pre-uploaded into our devices, into Visual Poi, using LT Composer and USB cable. So you can display any logo, you can put some advertising, you can put some specific images or patterns or something which will look amazing on stage or at your home or maybe during the festival or any other event. You can surprise many people with that, and always we receive very nice feedback from the people who see these things, and always we get like questions of how did you do that? So I believe you are familiar with this technology, so I don't have to explain more, and we are going to jump into LT Composer. So since I have LT Composer already installed on my Mac, I'm going to launch it. And don't worry, the version for Mac and for Windows is completely the same. There are just little differences in keyboard shortcuts. And I'm going to explain the shortcuts either for Mac and Windows. So this is my default view of LT Composer. You can see that it's currently empty. You can see some of the images, and these images are a default library. These are like default images in the library, which is included in every installation of LT Composer. You can also see that I'm working with the most recent version of LT Composer, which is Lighttoys Composer 3.3. I'm on Mac. And right now I'm going to go to my resource folder, which I downloaded from the link, which is in the right bottom corner. I'm going to open the resources folder, and as you can see, I have here installation zip archive with Mac version, with Windows version, so you can decide, you can actually choose which one you're preferring, or regarding to your operational system at your computer. Here is a manual for LT Composer. I can quickly show it to you, like introduction, how to install drivers for Windows. For Mac you don't need any drivers actually, so it's more easy. You can find all the things also here. So I'm not going to show you very basics. I'm going to break down the project which we created for today and show you some amazing tips and tricks and some handy effective techniques. Here you can also find music. It's the same music which we used last time, and actually the whole project will be based on the same timeline, but we are going to work only with Visual Poi, and in the future webinar we are going to merge all these projects together because they share the same music, same duration, and we will explain you how to upload, how to set it perfectly with a remote controller and synchronize it, play it, test it on your devices, but that's not the subject for today. So here you can find the project volume 1 basic workflow. This is the previous one. This was our first webinar, so you can also use this, but for today's purposes we need those two things. First of all, we have our project images, and you can see that we have here only 4 images. These images are like base which we will use for today's webinar, and beside of these 4 images we are going to use these default images which are stored in the installation of LT Composer. So I'm going to import my project volume 2 Visual Poi TM. Oh yeah, next time I should tell the guys that we don't need these special things here. So you can easily import it into the LT Composer by going File, Open, and then you can find it in your computer. So I'm on desktop, going to my resources folder, and I'm going to select this Visual Poi .ltp. This LTP, it's a version of our project files. So I can open it like that. I just hit escape. Oh, sorry, I didn't switch on the keyboard shortcut thing. Okay, great. Now you can see escape. This is escape. Yeah, it's quite weird. But we are going to do it more effective way. So I'm just going to drag and drop it to my LT Composer. You can drop it anywhere into the LT Composer. So now we don't need our resources folder. So I'm going to maximize my windows, my LT Composer, and this is what you should see as well as me. I'm actually going to zoom in, so we can use this zoom in button in a toolbar. I'm going to zoom in, and you can see the whole project. So before we are going to start with breakdown, before I will explain how I did this sequence and what was the idea behind, I would like to show you how it looks when it's uploaded to the Visual Poi. So let's see that right now. You ready? Set, go. I hope you like it, guys. And if you want, you can drop a comment into our live chat. Today we have my friends in another room because I don't want to be distracted. So and because the live stream has a little delay, so they are in another room and they are going to answer all your questions. So they will answer to your cheers and to your messages in our live chat. So you can actually use this advantage that we are going this live. It's not pre-recorded, so you can ask anytime you don't know. Anytime you will have some question you will not be sure about, if you will need some help or explain. And I have here also a little monitor next to me, which you don't see right now. And if they will if they will found something important, they will write it to me so I can talk about it exactly. Yes. So as you can see, this is the whole project of Visual Poi. It's like 1 minute long, and maybe this project, maybe this sequence is not so great at the first look. It looks in LT Composer a little bit weird, and I actually did this sequence on purpose. So actually to show you the power and efficiency of LT Composer 3.3, I decided that I am going to use only one image, combining with color blocks, which you can see here in our media library. So if you are going to tap colors, you can see these 6 color blocks. And these blocks we have been using last time during our previous webinar. So if you want to get something from that, you should watch that webinar which we have recorded on all of our social sites. So I was using only a few of these blocks, actually solid and gradient and flash. And then I used only one picture. I used this, originally it's actually red triangle, so you can see it here. When you will click on any image, you can see that the edit pane window here in LT Composer has changed, and it changed to the settings of this specific block. So if I'm going to click on the gradient, which is the color block, you can see that I have these settings to set the start color and end color. And if I'm going to click on my image, you can see that the settings are more rich. There is a little bit more things what you can do. It's actually a lot of things which you can do. Okay, so where you can get this image to put it on the timeline, you will not find it in this default library. And the first thing we are going to do is talk about resources, where you can get images or graphics for your Visual Poi project. Here you can see the default library. So every time you need to use some of the, or you want to use some of the images which are in our default library, which comes with every installation of LT Composer, you can go to Media and open Default Library. This will always load the default library which is stored inside the installation of LT Composer. But what if we would like to use different images? What if we want to use our photos, texts, and all these variable things which we in Priority Lighttoys are constantly talking about? We have to open a specific folder. So previously I showed you that on my desktop in the resources folder, there's another folder, Project Volume 2 Visual Poi Images. And this folder is full of these 4 JPEGs, these bitmap graphics, which we actually, well, actually this one I have created in Photoshop, but you can find something similar on our website, which is quite handy tool actually. So if you want to download some of these images or different images, you can go to our website, which called Visual Poi Zone. So you can type to any browser visualpoi.zone, and this is quite, well, it's quite old design website. We have created this like many years ago. It's completely for free. The only thing you need to do in order to download any of the graphics, you have to sign in. You have to log in, register. You can do it using Facebook, or, oh, you can see my email here, great. Or you can use your regular email, so it's up to you. You can also upload any graphics, because this website is actually like not like a marketplace because it's for free, but like shared platform. It's like platform for sharing images, ideas, animations. It's like community platform. So everyone is welcome to sign in and to download any of the images. Here in the footer of the website, you can see that currently there is like 3,108 graphics available for you. Wow, I think it's quite a lot of graphics. Some of these graphics can be a little bit bad, but there is a lot of graphics which are great. Since this platform, this website is completely open, you can find different things in different languages actually, like these ones, or you can use our featured authors, which we are handily picking, and we are trying to change these featured fields every week or something to give you the best graphics, which we found very, very good. So if you want to use any specific patterns, like, I don't know, if you are going to do some show for your friends or maybe on stage during Halloween, so you can, oh, actually, I don't know how to spell it correctly, so I'm going to go with pumpkin. So you can type pumpkin and then just go search, and this will show you these images which are related to the word you are searching. If you don't know exactly what you are looking for, you can use our suggestions, or you can click on all suggestions, and as you can see, there is a lot of different categories, like yellow, so basically based on specific color, on flag or strobe, animals, space, ornaments, logo. We can actually click on logo, and you can find some different graphics, different images. Yeah, Star Wars, Playboy, Yin Yang, BMW. Okay, so this is one of your sources which you can easily use without any specific skills like Photoshop or GIMP or other graphic or Illustrator or something like that, or Affinity Photo. Of these like softwares for creating images. You can download it easily. Here it's for free. Every time you click on something like this flower, you can see how it will look on the track, and you can also play an interactive animation, and you can see how it will look when you are spinning with the poi. We have here two types of animations for images and patterns. We have this circular animation, which will give you a look how it will be showed when you are spinning. For animations, I will type here animation, you can find these weird lines. And these lines are basically created for specific animations, which we are usually displaying on the Visual Poi when it's not moving. So during spinning, this will look weird. You can see it here. But here, this is animation. So when I will play it, you can see the visualization is like on static Visual Poi. And this is actually one of the graphics I have used in my project. So we are going to work with this one today. There is a name, Light School Move. It's from Martin. Martin is one of my colleagues, other owner of Pyrotera and Lighttoys, and he's one of the contact persons in Lighttoys eShop. Yeah, so I'm going back from this to my desktop. And any image you are going to download, you can put in specific folder like this one. When I'm in LT Composer, I can load the whole content of my folder, of my specific folder. So I'm going to click on Media, Open Image Library, and here I'm going to find my image folder. So I'm going to go to Desktop, I will open Resources, Project for today's webinar, and when I clicked on this folder, I'm just going to hit open. And you can see all my 4 images are loaded inside LT Composer. There's also another way which you can use, because these images are like perfect for Visual Poi. But if you want to import something here directly, you can also go to Media, Import Image. You can find actually any image on your computer, like this graphics, which I showed you before. You will double click, and the image will be imported directly here, so you can work with that. And as well, it will be automatically, oh yeah, you can see here, automatically imported to your graphics folder. So next time we are going to hit media and open default library because we want to use some of the graphics in the default library. Cool, we will use this cat from Shrek. And then I'm going to jump back to my own image library. The image which we have imported is still here because it will be stored in my folder. If I want to share this folder to my friend, or if my computer is, if I'm worried that my computer can break before the show, I can put all these things on the USB drive and then it's saved. It's good to mention that all the graphics which are placed somewhere in the project are always saved in the project file. So if you are going to put this graphic on the timeline, then it will be here forever until somebody will delete it, like I just did with my keyboard delete button. Great. So, how to actually create something like I have did? You can see various things here. We are going to begin from the beginning, surprisingly. I'm going to create another track. And as you can see, these tracks are like 136, which is the size of our Visual Poi Classic. I will recreate the same, so I'm going to hit new track here. Then I'm going to choose Visual Poi, and I would like to work with the same, so Visual Poi V4 Classic. You can see that you can work with Visual V3 Mini, V3 regular, or Visual Poi's V4 Mini, Classic, or Maxi, or Visual Band. So I'm going to hit this one, and my new track is down below. I can select it and drag it above, so I can reorganize all the tracks anytime. I can like put them like this or like this, and it will change nothing. It's just the way how you see it, and it's better to use these things sometimes when you need to orient, when you need to navigate through the devices, which you will see later, for example, here. Great. So I told you before that I wanted to create something like this using only one image and few color blocks. So I was actually using only this one. This is triangle red. This is like very, very simple graphics. You can download this on Visual Poi Zone, or you have it in our resources folder. But how it can happen that this red triangle is not red? So I'm going to begin with this. My approach to this project was that I wanted to start with some bright white color. So I have placed this red triangle on the track, and as you can see, it's a little bit different. You can see more spikes, more peaks than this one. You can also see there is a little lock sign, lock icon, which you don't see here, and there is a different color. So I'm going to show you all the settings, all the handy settings in the edit pane for a specific image. And our aim and the idea behind LT Composer work and workflow for graphics and images was and still is to make it as simple as possible, to give you so many options inside the LT Composer that you don't need to carry and you don't need to buy and pay for another softwares like Photoshop, Affinity Photo, GIMP, or something else. So you can jump to any computer on Earth, you can download from the internet the latest LT Composer for free. It was always for free and it's going to be for free. And you can work whenever you are. You can change your friend sequences when you are going some cooperations. You don't need to carry so much stuff with you, all the projects and etc. and these like stuff. Cool. So in order to recreate the same thing, I'm going to start with adjustments. So I'm going to close this tab, and for every graphic or pattern, it actually doesn't matter which pattern you are working with for the graphics for Visual Poi. You can see these three categories: sizing, transformations, and adjustments. So for the color changes, I'm going to jump to adjustments, and you can see these four sliders. The first slider is for brightness, so you can actually adjust brightness of your pictures, images inside LT Composer, which is very handy. For example, right now we are in vertical view, which is not very good for Visual Pois, for images in Visual Pois, because images are usually displayed during spinning. So I'm going to hit a dynamic, and yeah, that's quite funny here. This is it's like a dynamic visualization. So this represents the circle which you should do when you're spinning your Visual Poi. You can either have it paused, like I have, static, or you can also play it with this little button next to the dynamic word, and it will show you this animation, which is quite similar than the animation which you have seen during our browsing of Visual Poi Zone. So I'm going to pause it, and here you can see that I can adjust brightness, so I can make it darker. Sometimes it's good to use that. And also I can make it brighter. If I'm going to spin for somebody and it will be not full dark, this can help in some occasions. But for right now, we don't need it. So I'm going to manually input this number. Here you can see the contrast. It's regular thing like when you are editing your photos on your mobile phone, on Instagram or anywhere. So you can like punch a little bit the contrast, or you can actually go like this. The default is 1 and you cannot go under that, I think, or maybe you can try. Yes, you cannot. I think it's okay. Then there is a saturation, and saturation is actually the thing which I used for this triangle image. And as you can see, my dynamic visualization, which I have switched before, showed us that we have this triangle. So this triangle will not look nice when we are going to spin with it. It will look like I don't know, some chainsaw or some saw or something, because this animation is particularly placed and created for static visualization. So I'm going, when the Visual Poi is just in my hands and I'm not spinning with that. So I'm going to switch to static, and right now you can see that whenever I'm going to slide with my cursor on the timeline, and I have selected before this track Visual Poi 3, so this visualization shows me exactly what is happening during the time. And these 3 boxes represents all the 3 tracks. So they are going to show you just a preview of the logo or of the graphic which we are using currently. This is very good when you are doing a big project with a lot of logos or specific graphics, like we have here, Lighttoys. So you can see what is inside. So you can see there's nothing in our Visual Poi 3, which we can rename by double clicking to test 1. So now it changed also here. So you can see, and it's also highlighted by this white border. So every time you're clicking on some specific track on the timeline, you can also see that it is highlighted in the static visualization. And it also shows me what is happening on the Visual Poi when I'm dragging when I'm moving with this cursor. Cool. If I want to see all the static effects like this together on all the Visual Pois, I have to jump to vertical, and here I will see all the changes, all the animations which are going to happen at the same time. Great. So I'm going to hit dynamic to see the photo, and the last thing which we have here is hue shift. Hue shift is here for recoloring or changing the overall color, actually overall colors of the whole graphic. So by dragging, by sliding with this diamond on the slider, you can see that all the colors are changing, like on the color wheel. This can be very, very handy, and we are going to use it in a few seconds. So I will delete this. I will just select this image. I will delete it with my keyboard shortcut. I have here some questions from live chat that you would like to know, and my colleagues think that it will be great to explain a real-time option. Real-time option is default when you're opening LT Composer, so it's like this tick is on, but if you will switch it off, you can see that the whole project visualization is going to change. You can see I'm just changing from real time to regular and back. real time is particularly handy for calculating, for changing effects to the music, to the beats, which we have been doing last time during our FT and colors webinar, but it's very, very good and very important for Visual Pois, especially for Visual Pois. Because sometimes you would like to see that this is logo. I put here a text, Lighttoys. This is a graphic, which is actually in the default media library. I'm not going to jump there right now. So you can see this text logo, but if I'm going to zoom out, you will never recognize this as your logo. So sometimes we are working in big teams and somebody is preparing the whole sequence, then that guy will just send me the project files and I would like to change the logo for any different client. So I'm going to keep all the images, I will keep all the colors, I want to keep all the animations, but I just want to change this specific graphics. Right now I cannot find it quickly where it is, so that's why we can unclick this real-time setting, and if we are going to zoom out, this will give us an idea where we can find our logos. If we're going to zoom in, we can actually see the whole logo with all the repetitions. This will automatically repeat to fill the whole place of the block on the track. So if we are like scroll a little bit, I can see that this is where my Lighttoys, my text or graphic is starting. So I can scroll here and I know that I have to replace, I will delete and place here something else related to my current performance or current theme of the party where I'm performing. So this is like for joyful. Okay, I'm going to jump back. I'm going to use keyboard shortcuts Command Z or Control Z on Windows. I'm going to jump back 2 times. You can also use these undo and redo arrows here in the toolbar next to real time and zooming. And yes, so this is the real time for images. But if you want to see the animations and like the smoothness of the animations, you can click back to real time and it will show you exactly what is happening when in the specific time. So if I'm going to jump to vertical, where I can see, because these are animations, that's why I'm using real time. Real time is basically great for animations. I'm going to use vertical visualization and I can see exactly what is happening. And since I'm showing you this thing, I would like to show you our very short video, which I created like 20 minutes ago, to explain how these animations and things works. So I have put this my red triangle. I know that I want this red triangle to happen only once during the whole time. And now I can see that there is like 5 repetitions. So I'm actually going to go to sizing and I can find here repeats. And I know that I want this triangle to happen only once. So I can type here 1 and hit enter. And this will change the duration of this effect for only 1 repetition. You can see these locks here and you may ask, what are these locks for? You can actually hit this lock next to the repeats, so you can close and you can like lock the number of repetitions. So if you are going to drag it, it will still stay 1 repetition of the graphic. And because we are advertising these webinars to give you some handy tips and tricks, this is quite an effective way of doing it by typing it here and clicking here. So you can use a handy shortcut on your keyboard by holding Command on Mac or Control on Windows and easily just hit 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. And this keyboard shortcut will set the number of repeats according to the number which you have selected. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is maximum. Well, I don't know why, don't ask me. And it's actually handy enough. And it will also lock this lock, basically. So the number of repeats will stay for all the times, no matter the duration of the block on the timeline. So I just delete that from my track, and I'm going to put it again here. I will put it here. I will hit Command 1 or Control 1 on Windows, and it's locked in the time, so I can see it's perfectly matched to my previous block. So I'm going to go back because I deleted these gradient blocks, and I want this to stay on one repeat. So this lock is basically here for that. Since we started with sizing, there is also like a spacing option, scale option, repeat, vertical, but it's not very important right now. I'm going to explain this later. So I'm going to close sizing. And what is happening right now is that when I'm moving with my cursor from left to right, I can actually see on my test 1 here, which is my track, I can see what is happening in the specific time. And the logic behind all these animations, and actually the principle of the Visual Poi, is that you can always see only one pixel, one vertical line of pixels. So if you have Visual Poi 136, which is size classic, you will see 136 pixels vertical, and horizontally you will see only one pixel. So every time where you have your cursor, you can see exactly the place where you are. I prepared this small animation to showcase this with the same red triangle, so I'm going to play it right now, and you can see the movement behind the Visual Poi and the place which you see, the place in the graphics which you can see on the Visual Poi. So this is basically how it works. This is very important to show to you, because this should give you a better insight in the logic behind animations. And also it can inspire you how to create your own animations, your own specific graphics. So right now you can see this linear line. If you will do it like this, it will do another amazing effect. Let's see it later. So I'm going to jump back. So I'm going to recolor this to white. So I'm going to select my red triangle, and I'm going to use saturation slider in adjustments. And since I don't want to have any color, I want to go pure white, I'm going to slide to the left, and saturation, I will put saturation on 0. So now we don't have any color. So if I'm going to use this slider, hue shift, I cannot change anything because white is full of all colors, so I cannot change that. If I want to recolor, I have to put saturation back on 1, or whenever I can see any color basically, and then I can use this slider hue shift, so you can see as I'm sliding, the color is changing and updating according to the position of my slider. And since you can see this DEG, which means like degree, we are actually sliding on the color wheel. So you can imagine that if we are starting on red and then we are sliding with our slider, this color wheel is changing like that. And if we are going to go over 360, which is basically the end of the hue shift slider, 360, we are back in our original color, we are back in our red. So right now I would like to go with white, and I'm going to speed up a little bit my work here today. So I'm going to use this gradient. So I can grab this gradient in my colors media library. I'm going to place it here. I will select the beginning color white, which is matching perfectly with the end of our red triangle. I will put this end of this gradient on black. And now I perfectly recreated the same thing which is here. Next step is the same gradient, but it's reversed. So I'm going to click on this. I will hit Command D or Control D on Windows, which is like duplicate. So you can see that the same block which is here, which I selected, is glued to my mouse. So whenever I'm moving, you can see it moves with me. I will snap it here. because all the things, all the blocks in LT Composer are automatically snapping like magnet to the edges of it or to markers. But since I have here already these two blocks, and so I'm snapping to their edges. Perfect. You can also see this line at the beginning and at the end, and this purple line indicates where I'm going to place it according to the music. So right now you can see that the beginning of my block is perfectly matched to this beat in the music. When I'm going to play it, it's perfectly in the music. Perfect. So I would like to reverse this effect, so I'm going to click here. I just swapped the beginning and end color in my gradient block, and here I have only white color, so I don't want to drag this red solid block and then go here and then click white color. I would like to use our hot or magic corners, so I'm going to the top right corner of our previous block, and I'm going to extend the end color, which will generate a new solid color block. So it's picking the last color in the gradient block and it's creating a new solid block. But then I have this effect, and this is a little bit different than what you see here, because this is just linear line from end to another end, but this is ending in the middle. So I'm going to duplicate this red triangle by hitting Command D on Mac or Control D on Windows. I'm going to place it here. I'm going to adjust the duration, and since you can see this black lock, which means that I have locked the number of repeats to 1, it will stretch when I'm sliding with that. If I will unlock this and I will stretch it, you can see that the duration stays the same, and I'm just like cutting the pieces, and when it ends it will start to repeat from the beginning. I don't want that, so I'm going to one step back and another, or I can actually, sorry, I go redo. So I can hit Command 1 or Control 1 on Windows and it will stay exactly on repeat 1. So I'm going to adjust the duration to match my previous blocks. And now I would like to do this effect here. So this is actually very interesting. I'm going to use transformations, which is the middle tab in our edit pane when we are editing graphics. So I'm going to expand this tab, and I want to flip it horizontally. So my graphic just flipped. I can also flip it vertically. So I can create this effect here. If I'm going to flip it vertically, you can see. So you can combine these flip vertically and flip horizontally to achieve different variants of each graphic. And I don't want to have this single line, I want to end in the middle. So I actually need to duplicate this effect. So I'm going to hit mirror vertical. Oh, this is like opposite thing that I wanted. So we can try, oh, this is also a different thing because we hit flip vertically. It's always a little bit tricky. You have to find your own way, and I'm not very good in visualizing the things in my brain. I believe you are much better in that. I need to just click, yes, now we are perfect. So I horizontally flipped the original graphic, which we can still find in our images library here. It's still recolored using saturation on 0 to white. And I just flip it horizontally and mirror it on a vertical axis. So we created the same effect here. And as you can see, here is basically the same thing. So we are going to duplicate this one, and we want to create this effect. We can actually use that by mirroring it horizontally, not flipping it at all. So if I'm going to begin with my original thing, I'm going to mirror horizontally, and then I'm going to flip it vertically. Oh, sorry, mirror vertically. Maybe it's quite difficult to understand. Yeah, you can see here that I used two different graphics to achieve this effect, but actually you can see that this is one full repetition and then half of this repetition. So we can either use this flipped this mirrored version of the red triangle, or we can just slide it here, then duplicate it again by Command D or Control D on Windows. Then we will unlock the number of repeats, and we can slide it until the middle. And you can see that this is not very accurate. So we will choose another way. First of all, we are going to match the end with snapping to this block. And we can actually write here 0.5. So we know that we will have only 50% of repetition. But that's not exactly what I did here. I used different version of transformation. So you can see that here we are using mirror horizontally and mirror vertically. But here, this is different block. This is actually the same like here. So there are several different ways to achieve the same thing. And it's completely up to you which way you are going to go. Just to mention, we are right now in our expanded view. So when you will hit simple V on your keyboard, you can make it smaller when you are working with so many props, or you can expand the view, V like view, and you will see bigger tracks. Okay, so right now I have this. I can also lock the number of repeats, which is 50%, 0.5. I can lock it like this. So if I'm going to stretch it, it will still stay the same. Cool. Here again, I have my gradient block, so I can slide here, duplicate by Command D or Control D on Windows. I'll put it here, and since I want to reverse it, I will click on these swap arrows. I will extend the duration, and yes, here we are. And we are still using only this red triangle, nothing else. And this will not change even with this next block. So we will start with the same base. We are going to put here a triangle. We are match it with the duration of the block below. We want to use this only once, so I'm going to hit Command 1 on Mac. You can hit Control 1 on Windows. So the duration will be set to 1 repetition, which you can see here in the edit pane, like 1 repeat. And it will be also locked. So whenever I'm going to move with that, it will stay still. I'm perfectly on the edge. Great. Right now I would like to recreate this effect. I achieved this, and we can actually look how it looks. In our static view, I'm going to select Visual Poi 1, and I'm going to slide with my cursor, so you can see only this track, what is happening. So this like loading effect from sides to the middle, which is divided into 8 different pieces. Those are basically 8 different triangles in the same block. And how to achieve that actually? So I'm going back to vertical, or actually I can stay in static. And yes, so what I just did, I used our vertical repeat. So this number indicates how many repeats we are going to do on our vertical axis. So you can try that and see what it will do when you will select this slider and you will repeat and repeat and repeat. And since I know that here is 8 versions, but I can see that they are like starting and they're like equal to the center, to the vertical center of the graphics. So I think I have used a mirror vertical option. So I'm going to mirror it vertically. And now if I want to have 8 pieces, since it's automatically mirrored, I only need 4 vertical repetitions. And right now it's quite different. Basically it's quite opposite what you can see here. So I believe I also used flip H. Okay, not flip vertical. Yes, flip vertical. I'm always confused about that, guys. And oh, actually our timer is off, but never mind. We are recording this video. Oh yeah, thank you, Mark. He has to switch off the alarm. Sorry, guys. We are recording this, so we will upload it even on Instagram, and we will try to cut the beginning to fit into 1 hour 60 minutes of duration. Yes. Then I want to recolor. So I'm going to close sizing, transformations, and I'm going to use adjustments. And I can grab this slider hue shift and I can slide. And as I'm sliding, you can see that that color of my block is updating. If I want to be perfectly matched to these colors, I can just easily click on this block. I can select 164 degrees. I will copy by Command C. On Windows, you will hit Ctrl C. I'm going back to my original graphics and I will just place it here, Command V or Ctrl V on your regular keyboard on Windows or Mac. Then I know I am perfectly matched because the base is the same triangle red, which I see here. And the degrees and the saturation, contrast, brightness are also the same, so you can see no changes. If I will have this slider here and this one here and this one here, so if I'm going to click, you can see that the sliders in our edit pane are changing, so you can see something's wrong. So I'm going to go back. Oh, so many steps. Cool. Yes, perfect. And then I'm going to use another gradient block from our colors media library. I'm going to go here. And this part is kind of tricky. Since we have this red original color and we want to match exactly this color, there's actually no effective way of how to do it quickly in LT Composer. So the best thing is to go here and just slide with the slider. I recommend you to go zoomed in as possible and go back with the cursor a little bit so you can clearly see the edge. And then click on this gradient block, click on the start color, which is here, and then slide slowly until the colors will be somehow matched. You don't have to be very precise when you are programming or sequencing these props, because even the Visual Pois, they have super bright and super accurate color LEDs. It's not that visible for a human eye. So you have to be careful to be as close as possible, but if you'll be slightly off like this, I don't know if you can see it on Instagram, on live stream, that these two colors are a little bit different. But if you'll be slightly off, it's okay. So just find your specific way. There is also like a pro tip. I don't know how this can work on Windows, so sorry guys who are using Windows. On Mac, we can use this color. Oh, I have it in Czech language, sorry. But in English, it's digital color meter. So if I'm going to type digital color meter, I'm going to open it. I can use this built-in app in every Mac OS, and I can actually go here and I can see the code, the RGB code of the color here, which is 02544186. It's good to write it somewhere down when I'm here. So whenever my mouse is, I can see the color. So you can write that down and then go to the settings of your color block and you can write it here. This is like R position, then you can go to the green one and blue one, RGB, red, green, blue. So this is quite handy tip for Mac users. I believe there is something like that also for Windows, but since I'm not using Windows for many years, I have no idea. Really sorry guys. Yes. Then the end of the gradient will go to black, and here we are. I'm not going to break down all these things, all the things like here are the same. I just actually copied this block here. I just put saturation back on 1 and I used hue shift to recolor this red triangle. So if I'm on 0, which is the default, this is original color of the red triangle, which is adjusted in transformations by mirroring it horizontally and mirroring it vertically. I just used hue shift to put there a different color, which I'm not able to match right now. Yes, cool, something like that. And then I just played with my imagination. I thought that these two Visual Pois will be touching like top and bottom. So I decided that one of these will go different color. There's no big logic behind that. Then here I placed these effects on the music. So I actually used markers. For those who didn't see the last webinar, markers are generated by hitting M on keyboard. It's the same for Windows and Mac users. So if I'm going to hit M whenever I am, and it will generate this yellow marker. You can every time select this marker and you can drag it anywhere in the composition. And also the markers are going to snap to all the blocks, to the cursor, to everything like a magnet. What I did, that I just played the music, and during the playback of the music, I hit M to create markers. 7, 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. So I created these markers, and you can see that I'm not very accurate. So then I zoomed in my music timeline, and I see that this should be a beat. So I have adjusted these yellow markers on their places to match the waveform. And yeah, it's not very accurate, but it's not very important because these are like just small differences. Somewhere here maybe. It's always better to just try it. And then I decided I will use the same diamonds, which we created from the red triangle, and I would like to put the top peak of the diamond on beat. So that's what I just did. So if I will go to Visual Poi 1, which is visualized here in our static view, and I will play it with music, you can see that all these effects will be perfectly placed on a beat. 1, 2, 3. Great, I'm very happy with this outcome. All right, I can hide my markers. If I don't want to be distracted with the markers, I can hit H on my keyboard. Oh, sorry, I have to switch on this app to show you the shortcuts. Yes, so H, like hide, will hide all the markers. And when you are going to hit it again, H, it will show the markers. Perfect. What I did here is that I wanted to play a little bit. So I'm going to vertical where I can see both my Visual Pois and what is going on the Visual Pois at the same time. And I created this effect from the red triangle again. I just used this hue shift, so I changed the color to pink. And this is very interesting part of using real-time technique. If I'm going to switch it off, you can not see very accurately what is happening, because during this duration, during the duration of this block, it will happen only once. But here I see something else. That's because I didn't switch real time. If I'm going to switch real time back, I can see what is happening exactly in the specific time and in the specific place in the music. So I wanted to create this effect, like one Visual Poi is basically going to give the color to another Visual Poi, and I basically achieved that by using the same block, which I just duplicated from here, and I just flip it vertically and horizontally. And I forgot to mention earlier today that all the Visual Pois are usually like this, which I showed you before in the video. So the track, which you can see, will be displayed in the Visual Poi like that. So the battery and the button and the place where you have your chain or your strap or any cord is actually down. So if you are going to flip your Visual Poi like this, the graphics will not work. So if you have it on the table like that in front of you, you will see this animation going from the button to the very tip, to the very end, to the tip of the Visual Poi. If you will switch the Visual Poi, the graphic will actually stay the same, which is difficult to show you like here. So you should try it all the time. So here I'm going to give the color from one Visual Poi to another. And then I'm going to use the same beats just here on the Visual Poi, which doesn't have any color during that time. Here we used our rainbow block, which you can find in colors, rainbow. which is basically a gradient, like multiple gradients from pink to pink, and I ended with blue, so I adjusted this period slider because I wanted to end with blue color. And then I matched another red triangle from our images library, and I used the same technique with hue shift. So I just tried, and actually here you cannot easily find the specific color because there is a difference from the original color to the end color when using hue shift. So before I showed you this digital meter, which you have built in the Mac OS, but you cannot use it here. It's actually possible to do it with some calculations, but I think it's easier just to go with this slider. Yes, this was basically created the same way. I just made sure that I want all the animations to happen only once in the time. So I clicked Command 1 or Control 1 on Windows, and I selected repeats to 1 and lock it. Yes, if I wouldn't do that, if I will have like 1.6 or something like that, or if I will have actually the original one, which is flipped and then stretched. This is my maximum, so I can actually type here 1.4 or something. Oh, sorry. So 1.2. Sometimes it happens that you don't see, especially when you have real time not selected, you cannot see precisely what is happening on the track when you're zoomed out. So I recommend again to go to real time, and if I will not hit this repeats 1, you can see that I'm perfectly changing the color from red to blue, and then again it starts again. It's quite annoying, so I want to hit my Command 1 or Control 1 on Mac, and then just change the hue shift to match the blue color, like that. Perfect. Okay, here you can see the very end, which I like. This effect I really like, which is the same like here, and it's just with more vertical repetitions. It's like 8, and it's just reversed. So I just flipped this effect horizontally. Then you can find the regular color block, flash here. I will put the volume down a little bit so you can hear me. This is just flash with different periods and different colors. I was explaining this last time, so I'm not going to remind you again. You can watch this tutorial and this webinar to find out. And here you can see that I finally used some other graphics. And since our time of this webinar, I'm not very good in timing. I'm explaining all these things quite slowly because I want you to catch up. It's actually so much things I'm telling you at the time, and I'm trying to speak slowly. If you don't like how I speak, or if you don't understand me, or if you want me to slow down, I'll be more than happy if you will give us feedback in the comments, on the live chat, on Instagram, YouTube, or Facebook, or if you will fill the form, which I will show you at the end of this webinar, where we have like 5 very simple questions which will help us to make these webinars better. All right, so back to this one. I wanted to create this bouncing effect on the Visual Poi. So actually I went to Visual Poi Zone. I type here, I think something like animation, and I found this up and down. I can see it here in recommendations, but animation. And in my animations, I was searching through and I load more and I don't see it here. Oh my God. So I don't know how I actually find that. So I was browsing maybe I can write white. All right. Yes. This is basically the same. But somewhere here I found my up and down pattern, which I downloaded and put in my folder, which is this one from Mr. Pedro Balseiro. Thank you for this one. I like this. It was quite kind of slow, so I imported into LT Composer. I wanted to match it to the beats, so I actually count the beats. So it was like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I knew that I want to do it like twice to the top. So I just adjusted the duration, so you can see here the beats in the music waveform. You can see the beginning very clearly in this music, and then I hit Command 2 or Control 2 on your Windows keyboard, and I adjusted the repeats to 2, because the original one is just this long guy. So if I will put it on 1, repeats 1, you will see this. If I will keep the original size, actually, which we can also do by putting scale to 1, and since we have this real time, so you can see how long is this graphic in original. So we don't want to use that. We want to use it twice. And then I wanted to go from the first Visual Poi, where I have my bouncing light, to the lower one. So I tried to use the same effect, basically, and I just used only half of this effect, half of this bounce up and down, this one repetition. So I just clicked and I just put here 0.5, which is like half of the graphic, and I flip it vertically from the original one to match this effect. And because I'm in real time, I perfectly see the edges are matching. So when I'm going to go to vertical visualization, and you can see here in my Visual Poi 1 to Visual Poi 2, I'm going to go bounce up, down, and then directly slowing down to this one. And I really like this effect, actually. Yes. Here I created the same things like at the beginning, and then I started to use different graphics. This graphic is actually not here. Sorry, I missed this one. I forgot to put this one in the folder. We can check if we can find it in our default library, but I believe not. So that's my mistake. I forget that I used this one. You can easily go to Visual Poi Zone, you will type animation, and it's this graphic. It's actually from me. I created this graphic many years ago. So it's like 2 oranges lines with 1 blue. It's this animation, and yeah, I'm the author. I created this graphic. So you can easily download this one and put it into your folder, which I can actually show you. I'm going to, yeah, I have to log in. So I'm going to sign into my account. Lighttoys Academy, welcome. I'm going to type animation. I type it wrong. And I'm going to open this one, download original size of the pattern. You can see that it's only 80 pixels because I have created this one way before V4 generation of Visual Pois were created. And I want to put this graphic into my media library. So I can either drag it somewhere from my computer where it's saved to the resources folder, or I can open my image library. So media, open image library, go to my desktop, resources, project, Visual Poi, project volume 2. I will open this folder, and then I'm going to hit media, import image, go to my downloads, and here you can see my 2 oranges lines. So I'm going to click, and it will be placed into my folder, which I'm using. You can see that I did the same thing here, that I used saturation. So from these 2 orange lines to, well, actually I also used brightness. So from 2 orange lines and 1 blue, I just went to full white. And because it is in gradient colors, I wanted to have it full white. So I used brightness and I punched it to 200%. So it's perfectly white all over. Great. Then we used this effect. Here I also used, sorry, I jumping quite back, but here I also used this number 1 repeat. So this is also locked to repeat only once, because I wanted to fit this into the music, you know, like da 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 bam, do 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 bam. So I perfectly matched that with the beat, which I can see clearly on the music timeline. And yeah, etc, etc. The last thing which I want to explain to you actually is how to work with images and graphics. And you may say that this webinar is quite weird because we are all the time we are like promoting Visual Pois, like the things where you can display the graphics, but we already spent more than 1 hour of explaining how to work with static Visual Pois, how to do animations. You can use all these things like scale, spacing, mirroring, flipping, brightness, contrast, hue shift. You can also use all these things to adjust your graphics. And because we would like to use some text, and I intentionally put there a Lighttoys logo, and I don't see it very clear right now. I'm going to uncheck real time, which will kind of destroy all the animations and their connections, but that's fine. Now I'm focusing on my patterns. So I use this Lighttoys logo, and now is the time to tell you something about spacing and scale. So for editing any logo, I recommend to use dynamic view, which is the view which will show you the graphic when it's spinning in the circular movement, like in the circle, like this, or like this, or like this. It will basically show you all the things in the circular movement. So these animations are not very good for that. But these graphics, for example, this hexagon field, which I created in Photoshop, I actually download that from Visual Poi Zone and edit this thing in Photoshop a little bit, so you can benefit from my work which I did. I also used only this one hexagon field, and I recolored that. And I'm just changing the colors to the music, that's it. Toop, 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 toop. That's it. You can see it perfectly in this dynamic view. You can also see how it will change and update during spinning. So next to the dynamic tab, you can click on play button, and then when you will play it, you can also see how it will look when it will be spinning. So all these animations looks quite weird, right? Yeah, about the logo. So we are going to stop the animation here in the pause button next to the dynamic tab, and originally it will look different. So I will delete this logo. I'm going to open my default media library, where you can find our Lighttoys logo. I will place it, drag and drop it on the timeline, and you can see that all the repetitions of the logo are quite annoying. I'm just checking the notes, sorry guys. Okay, great. I don't want to see this in the air. I would like my audience to see the Lighttoys logo, to read it very well. So that's the situation for which we have included these sliders, spacing and scale. So we will start with spacing. Spacing basically repeats the last edge of the graphics. So if you can see, it's not very visible here, but the end and the beginning of the Lighttoys logo is actually 1 pixel black line. So it means, you can see it here when I will zoom in, that the logo not begins with this L in cyan color. There is like 1 black line. So when I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to use spacing, and I will slide with that, you can see that between all the repetitions in one round, it duplicates the black vertical pixel line. So I can perfectly adjust that. So during my spinning, I will see in the air only those 2 repetitions. There is also another aspect of spinning Visual Pois, and it's speed of the performance and speed of the performer. Sometimes you have slow music, you are spinning slowly. Sometimes you want to go really, really fast. Maybe you don't have music and you just want to show that you can you can spin very fast, which is great, of course. But what will happen if you will spin faster or slower? For example, right now, I have my RPM, which is the speed of this visualization, rotations per minute, set to 100. This is like regular spinning. If I will go to 200, oh, sorry, I accidentally hit spacebar. So again, I hit 200. So I'm on a double speed. So you can see that only one repetition per one circle will be shown. So if I know that my friend for which I'm going to prepare the sequence, or if I want to spin really, really fast, I have to use this second slider, scale. And I want to, oh sorry, this is quite distracting, so I'm going to pause it. And I can use scale to shrink the size of the logo. So it's actually reverting the effect which is created by fast spinning in the air. When you are spinning faster than your project, then you are like stretching, you're stretching the logo. So if you are on a regular size, it will be stretched like this. Maybe it will be more visible on some specific image like this emoji. So this is the beginning. This is the original one. I'm going to use spacing, so I want to see it only 4 times in the air. And when I'm going to spin fast like this, I can see 4 these images. If I'm going to slow down to 100, I will see it only like that. I will see it like multiple times. If I'm going to use scale, when I'm spinning like 200, it's a little bit stretched, so I can put it back using scale. So I can actually scale it down, so it's more rounded like at the beginning, which will actually do it if you are going to slow down with your poise to 100 or slower. It will be shrinked a little bit. So you have to think about these things a little bit, and I recommend you to test all these things, to try different settings. Usually we are working with 140 and we are adjusting all these things. We are starting on 1, then we will use spacing to see it only 5 times in the air. I'll delete that. Okay, so this is what we did with spacing. I'll put spacing on 0. I will make spacing. Yeah, this is another example that on my Visual Poi Classic, you don't see, I actually used spacing, but there is not so much space between the repetitions. So actually, I can scale it down a little bit and create bigger gap by using spacing back. So my logo will be a little bit stretched, but during my spinning, it will not be visible. I mean, the stretch will not be visible during the spinning, and I created bigger gap between the repetitions. So in the air, when I'm spinning with that, all the people will see it and be able to read it more clear and easier. As you can see down here, this logo is reversed. It's not a mistake. I put this reverse effect intentionally here because when you are spinning with your poi, the direction, and I'm talking about direction clockwise or counterclockwise, it's also very important. If you know that during this whole choreography, which is like 1 minute on music, you are going to spin with graphics in this part, and you are going to have only one text here, you can actually prepare your choreography according to this. So the original direction, the best direction to read this in most places in the world, except some Arabic or Israel or Hebrew, where they read from right to left. So it's actually a little bit different for us people from US, Australia, Europe, with the reading from left to right. It will work when you are going to spin clockwise. I mean, from the audience view. So that's why we included this dynamic visualization. So you can see that you are looking like somebody from the audience on the spinner. You can imagine a head of the spinner here, and he's spinning towards us in the clockwise direction. If you know that your choreography is already created and all the people in your group already knows the choreography and it is just counterclockwise and you cannot change it because you cannot make another rehearsal, the easiest thing is to use this flipping horizontal effect. So we are going to transformations and you are going to flip it horizontally. Sorry, I clicked on mirror. Flip it horizontally, yes. So it will flip the logo and you're ready to go. So if you know that those guys will be spinning counterclockwise, you can just flip it, and during the choreography you will see it perfectly and you'll be able to read it. It will only look weird in the project. But this is why we included this flip horizontal. Maybe you would like to create more smaller duplications of the logo on the vertical axis. Sometimes it's better to read smaller texts on the big Visual Poi, and because Visual Pois have very great resolution and color accuracy, you can use smaller text and they'll be still easily and perfectly readable. So you can actually, and we are using this a lot, you actually go to repeat vertically on 2, which will create these vertical duplications of your logo. And since it will a little bit changed all these other settings, we are going to work with that. So we are going to use spacing, and maybe we can go to 3. We will make the spacing smaller. This looks weird, but to be honest, sometimes this is easier to read for the audience because smaller texts will be displayed on smaller part of the circle. So all the people can actually see them more clear and better. So sometimes this is actually a very good technique of how to do it, and you don't need to change it in Photoshop or in Affinity Photo or in other graphic software. So you can do it directly in our LT Composer. And yes, I believe this is basically everything. I'm going to check my notes. So I'm going back to the camera, and during this time the weather outside has changed, and also there's dark outside, so I believe you can see me clearly. What we did today was, I told you about the technology, I told you where to get images, so you're able to download images from visualpoi.zone. All these images are for free. It's a community platform, so you can sign in, you can comment, you can like, you can give some credit to the amazing authors and artists who uploaded their graphics and images to the Visual Poi zone. So you can find over 3,000 graphics available for you right now. That's great. You can either download them from Google, from anywhere at the internet, or you can actually make a photo with your phone and then just upload it to the composer using media import image. I showed you combination of image library and colors. So we were combining the media library parts where you can see images, graphics, and also colors. So for Visual Poi, you can use both these resources. For FT products like Boogangs, Poi, Staff, Cube, fans, you can use only colors because right now we don't have any other prop which can display animations. But it will come really early. As you may see, back to my screen, as you may notice that you can also select from these FT devices Hoop or FT Custom. And actually, if we are going to use the same animations here, and you go to dynamic or static view, you can see that we are already working on programmable hoops. So this will be, I believe, first of our, back to me, this will be, I believe, first of our programmable visual props, and not Visual Poi, but Visual Hoop. And some people already have the beta versions, the testing versions, and I hope we are going to release it soon. So the logic behind that will be the same. So you can use the animations, the graphics, but on a different shape. Yes, I told you about edit pane for images when Poi is static. So all these transformations, flipping, all the animations. Also when the Poi is spinning. So all the adjustments, recolor, saturation, contrast, brightness. I showed you how to work with lock sizing, which is very important when you want to repeat the animation exactly once or twice or specific number of times. Yeah, I showed you the handy shortcuts like Command 1, Command 2 or Control 1, Control 2 on Windows, how to locking the duration, how to locking the number of repeats in time. I showed you the edit pane for images, scale and spacing, and yes, one last thing, back to my screen. I forgot to show you one amazing effect. We call it like sparkling effect. So you can actually use any graphics. I'm going to real time, and I'm going to jump to static view. If you want to create, I will switch off the music. If you want to recreate something like that, sorry, I have to, yes, something like that. These like slow animations, these like sparkling, slow animations. You can actually try to experiment with various types of images. And for this purpose, the geometric ones are the best. So actually in the media, open default library, I used this red perspective honeycomb, yes. I placed it on our music timeline, and I used the scale to stretch it as far as possible. So actually here I used 50. We can actually go further, so I can put like 80, and then in static view, so I'm going to see only this one, it will create this slow effect. Maybe it's still too fast, so I can experiment. I can go to 200, sorry, it's too much, 200, which will create this amazing slow animation. I will stretch it a little bit to see it for a longer period. And this slow effect. And I can still flip it horizontally, which I did here. I can mirror it. I can actually mirror it. Yes, so it will look like this. Amazing slow animation. You can experiment with these sparkling effects. So you are basically using some of the real graphics, and you are stretching it in time with like super scale, like 200. It will create these amazing flame-like or sparkling different slow animations. And I recommend to try all these things. Try to be crazy, try to do as much different things as possible. And I would like to recommend these things. I would like to encourage you of trying the craziest things possible, because this particular this particular software, LT Composer, is created for creative people. We believe that you should not spend so much time sitting on a chair or in a chair, I don't know, I'm not native speaker, sitting in a chair and doing programming and like going bad with your spine. This is basically for people who want to quickly do something and then go rehearsing, working out, preparing, showing, and traveling around the world. So try, be creative. If you would like, send us your projects on our email, academy@pyrotera.cz. We would be more than happy to see your work, to see your approach. You can also upload this sequence to your Visual Pois. You can either upload it to Visual Poi Minis, Visual Poi Classic, Visual Poi Maxi. It doesn't matter. When you will connect it to the computer, it will automatically adjust the durations and the sizes. You can upload it to your Visual Wand. You can also upload it to your Visual V3s. And you can send us your video. We will be so happy to see you working, creating, and using this knowledge for your own purposes and creation. I'm going to check the notes. And yeah, cool. So this is actually everything from me today. I showed you all the things we have planned. I would like to thank you for staying with me. It was quite longer than I was originally planned. I was originally planning. I would be more than happy to receive your feedback for our work, because I'm not here alone. Here is another colleague, Marek, and I have other colleagues in another room explaining and answering all your questions in the live chat on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, because we are running this live stream everywhere on these platforms at the same time. And we would be happy, more than happy, to receive some feedback, what we can improve, what we can do better. Last time we had several people who actually filled the form for us, and we have this form. You can find it here on this link. So please go here, put this in your browser, spend these 15 or 20 seconds by typing down something which we can actually use, of how we can improve these things. We are doing it for free. We are doing it for you. We would like you to be better in all these things. We would like you to enjoy more this thing. And the only thing which is left right now is that I would like to invite you for another webinar, which will happen Wednesday, 12th of August, 8 p.m. CEST. So it's the same time like right now. If you don't like this time, just use this link and write there that I'm not okay with the time. That's why we create this form to receive some feedback from you. We are going to focus on remote controller. So we will be talking about this thing. I'm going to show you all the settings or the hidden features, which are not hidden, but not many people knows about that. Today we were talking about this, and a lot of guys, they actually didn't know about these things from Pyroterra. So it was great. I'm going to show you all these things, what you can do without your computer, just with remote control. And I believe you will be surprised as those guys were. And yeah, that's basically it. Thank you so much. My name is Marek Solniczka, and I'm looking forward to see you next time. Video.
I got drunk off your demons, one sipping on love shit.
So actually on this video, in the top left side, you can see that we put there a real video of Visual Poi's Maxi, Classic and Mini laying on the table, where we filmed this sequence which we pre-uploaded into the Visual Pois. So the same thing which is happening in the LT Composer inside of this project, you can see visualized live on real Visual Poi.